I wanted to take a moment to talk about Martha Moxley. This week marks the 50th anniversary of the savage beating, sexual assault, and murder of Martha, who was only 15 years old. And she went out the night before Halloween, October 30th, mischief night. And it was the morning of October 31st, Halloween proper, that her mutilated body with her pants pulled down was discovered on the family lawn, on her family's lawn. Now, this case made national headlines because the chief suspect, who it took decades to try in court, was a Kennedy cousin named Michael Skakel. He was ultimately tried, convicted, and then his conviction was vacated with a lot of help from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who spent a lot of time and a lot of money pointing the finger at other suspects, none of whom held water, including one Black teenage boy and a teenage boy of mixed race, who he named and who he charged with coming down to Connecticut, very wealthy gated community in Connecticut, from the Bronx to go caveman style per Bobby on Martha, young white blonde Martha. Now, when I was writing and reporting Ask Not, I got in touch with her mom, Dorothy. And Dorothy had me to her beautifully appointed apartment in Summit, New Jersey. And I sat with her for hours, and Dorothy showed me the family photo album, one of them that had family photos of Martha, her brother John, her father David, and Dorothy herself, Martha's cat. You'll see some of these photos. I took photos of them with Dorothy's permission, and I'm sharing them with you now. What the photos that really I found among the most poignant were the photos of Martha with her classmates her high school classmates on a field trip to Washington, D.C., and the photos that she took, of the Supreme Court and these like really famous, consequential governmental edifices. And I found them poignant because D.C., which she wound up loving, and these institutions were weaponized against her in murder, in death, by the most dynastic political family this country's ever seen, and which Ask Not exists to destroy once and for all. Now, after that, I went over to the courthouse and had a lot of help from the prosecutor in this case, one of the prosecutors, to view the evidence boxes in the trial. And I was put in a tiny windowless room, and a court clerk wheeled them out to me and said, this is the most substantial stuff. And then she said, almost as an afterthought, I write about this in the back of Ask Not. Oh, she said to me, you'll probably want to see the murder weapon. And then she scampered off. And I know it's sort of rote to people who work in courthouses, but it almost felt like, oh, you'd like a latte, right? I'll go get that for you, along with, the murder weapon. It was so surreal. It was so surreal. And then she came back in with this like very slim, oblong, like rectangular cardboard box. And inside that box was the golf club that had been used to beat and murder Martha. And I took that golf club out of the box and I put it across the table where I was seated. It was like this sort of round green table. It almost looked like kind of a cheap poker table. And that, to me, that was the most sacred object I came across that I ever really interfaced with, aside from some of Mary Jo Kopechne's personal objects and effects, which her family too shared with me and allowed me to look at and hold and photograph. In those boxes was also Martha's little diary, and really, really poignant. I put some of those photos up also on Instagram, none of her diary entries, but the diary itself, you just see how young she was and how full of life. I mean, it was just so colorful. The diary itself had like flowers on it. And, Martha was such a happy, vibrant young girl, and she had every gift you could want. And one of the most poignant things too in the diary, when I opened it up and I was sort of going through it, there was a little cigarette burn in some of the pages. It had burned through some of the pages, and the edges of it were still there and the hole was still there. And it was clearly, a young teenage girl experimenting with rebellion and smoking cigarettes. And it was just such a profound experience that I felt very fortunate. And I take the trust that the Moxley family put in me beyond seriously. On December 24th, Christmas Eve of last year, Dorothy died. She had lived a very long life, and she had spent the bulk of it advocating for justice for Martha. And, Michael Skakel, again, his conviction was vacated. But when he was finally brought to trial, before any of that, when it began, Dorothy was in court every day. And at the beginning of the trial, Michael Skakel got in her face, the bereaved mother's face, and said to her, "You got the wrong guy." That would disabuse me of somebody's guilt. Just my opinion. I know his conviction was vacated, and I brought up those evidence boxes because the other thing the court clerk told me, to my shock, was that I had gotten there just in time and I was going to be the last person to ever lay eyes or hands on any of that evidence, because in the wake of the vacation of that verdict, those boxes were going to be sealed up forever, and not another historian or journalist or fact finder would ever be able to look at them. So I was contacted by some people close to Martha, some really her friends who have also kept the flame lit all these years after Dorothy died. And they said, her memorial is in New Jersey. If you'd like to come. I said, please ask Martha's brother, John, if it's okay. I do not want to intrude. John said it was okay. I went, I sat in the back, and then I went to the luncheon afterward, and it was just afterward, lovely. Sorry. It was just lovely. I'm sorry, I'm a little, anyway. And I just wanted to read a little bit from the memorial service, which was held in April of this year for Dorothy Moxley. And again, just an incredible woman. Dorothy's life was forever changed by the tragic loss of her daughter, Martha Moxley, who was murdered in 1975 at the age of 15 in Greenwich, Connecticut for decades. Dorothy fought tirelessly for justice, never wavering in her pursuit of the truth. Her determination played a critical role in keeping Martha's case in the public eye, ultimately leading to the conviction of Michael Skakel in 2002, a ruling that was later overturned. Throughout the legal battles, Dorothy remained a steadfast advocate, using her voice to speak for victims and their families. And on my way out of Dorothy's apartment, which was filled with art, two major, huge portraits, one of Martha as a schoolgirl and one of Martha and John with their dog, she showed me her laundry room, which was right near the front door, and tucked in there was a childhood drawing that Martha had done. And it just struck me what she lived with and how she kept Martha alive with her. And I didn't think it was a coincidence that Dorothy, who was a Christian, died on Christmas Eve. And I think if ever two people were at rest with each other, it's Dorothy and Martha Moxley, and her beloved father, David, who died not long after Martha did. He could never speak about Martha after the murder. And he died in bed of a heart attack at a very young age. And when I asked Dorothy about that, she said she believed that the murder of Martha killed David. Here's a shock. It's been over 16 years since the federal minimum wage was raised to $7.25. Can you believe it? Company productivity has doubled, but has your wallet size 1 in 5 Americans can't even qualify for a basic credit card. The system is broken. We all deserve access to decent housing, transportation, and financial stability. That is where Kickoff comes in. Kickoff helps you build credit fast with affordable plans starting at just $5 per month. No hidden fees, no interest, just on-time payments that get reported to credit bureaus and help you grow a strong credit score. Users with credit scores under 600 saw an average increase of 84 points in their first year. With premium plans, you can even build credit with the rent you already pay. Only positive payments get reported. It is so easy to get started. Sign up in minutes from your phone. No credit check, no hassle. Over 1 million users and hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews make Kickoff the #1 credit builder on the App Store. Start building credit today and get your first month for just $1 at getkickoff.com/Maureen. That's GetKickoff.com/Maureen.